Hi everyone, thank you for coming to the PoemCity Anthology 2025 book launch at Bear Pond Books. A big thank you to Bear Pond for hosting. I'm Samantha Colbert. I am the publisher at Rootstock Publishing. I'm here to host. The bathroom, should you need it, is at the back of the store to the right. Tonight we have an amazing lineup of poets. We have Bianca Stone, Chard deNiord, and Toussaint Negritude. Yay! I thank all our poets for coming, as well as all of you. We have 17 poets signed up to read for the open mic. Orca Media and WGBR Radio, the show Bon Mott, they're both here filming and recording. So if you do not wish to be broadcast on the radio or on the public access or YouTube channels, then please do not read tonight. So by reading tonight, you give consent to be rebroadcast publicly. First, I'd like to thank our PoemCity sponsors. First and foremost, the Kellogg Hubbard Library. And a shout out to Nikki Welly, the events coordinator, without whom all of this, including this beautiful book, would not be possible. PoemCity is in its 16th year, and I see many faces tonight who have been participating from the beginning, and also many new faces. Thank you for coming. Please check out the PoemCity program at the Kellogg Hubbard Library or at their website, and enjoy the many poems and events downtown throughout the whole month of April. A thank you to Monica DiGiovanni, whose Eclipse Enzo painting is what's on the cover, and she has a poem in the book as well about the eclipse. Another thank you to the PoemCity anthology editor, Marisa Keller, and our book designer, Dina Dwinell Yardley. A big thank you to Vermont Humanities for sponsoring PoemCity. Many of you may have heard that federal grants have been rescinded for humanities councils across the country. And our very own Vermont Humanities will suffer if we don't act. I know many of you probably have your representatives on speed dial by now, but please call and let them know how much their programs like PoemCity and other literary and arts programs across the state mean to you. PoemCity and the way we come together to celebrate poetry as a whole community means a lot personally to me. Where would we be without poetry? I honestly shudder to think. There's truth in poetry, a mimicking of the heartbeat, not only of humanity and all its flaws, but of the beat of life of all the creatures, great and small, and of the earth too, breathing her life into all of us.
Sorry.
What was that?
No, that was me.
Well, that was something. Something feeding its thing into us. That was poetry. Tonight, though, we will hear all of this and more of the poems crafted and shared through PoemCity, and for that I am truly grateful. And let's all help keep poetry alive. Woo! I'm going to introduce our poets who will read in the order I call them out, or I introduce them here. And then afterwards, I will call out the names for everyone who signed up for the open mic. We'll go as far as we have time. I think we'll have about an hour after our headliner poets. And so if we don't get to everybody on the list, I apologize. If we do, I hope we do, because it'd be great to hear all of our poets tonight. I ask that we have time just for each poet to read their one poem and stick to that. Thank you. Tonight we'll be hearing from Toussaint Negritude. He's the former poet laureate of Belfast, Maine, and he is the author of the debut poetry collection, Mountain Spells. It's here today at Bear Pond Books. All of the books of the poets and also our beautiful anthology are here tonight. I hope that you purchase a book and purchase one to give us a gift if you can, because we want to support indie bookstores for a community like this, and we want to support poets. We'll also hear from Chard deNiord. He's a former Vermont Poet Laureate from 2015 to 2019, and the author of 9 books of poetry, most recently Westminster West by Tupelo Press and One as Other by Greenwriters Press. Bianca Stone is the current Vermont Poet Laureate and author of 7 books of poetry, most recently What is Otherwise Infinite, published by Tin House, and it won the 2023 Vermont Book Award in Poetry. Thank you for helping me welcome Toussaint.
Thank you. I'm going to open with my poem this year in PoemCity, which is in the window of Hepcat, the new hip jazz spot in town. I love that I can say that now. And as I'm sure you could imagine, a lot of poetry right now is definitely dealing with what we're dealing with. So this was my submission called Rocking Hard. Peace is not passive. Peace is a verb, an action, led by being in person, out front and in good faith. Peace is not passive. Peace is a verb. Peace is not a performative Tuesday or Saturday or Wednesday. Peace is a mandatory realization emboldening the right-of-way of of every which way we need to go. Peace is not passive. Peace is a verb, rocking life and rocking herd. Okay. So it's that poem there. And I urge everyone to really take that to heart, that peace is not passive. It's something that, as we know from our own country's history, something that has to be ardently fought for. And now is the time to do that. I know nobody knows what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm going to do a hopeful piece here from my book, Mountain Spells, called In Pots, Big as Human Dignity. I actually wrote this poem several years ago, one beautiful summer day, hanging out at the Horn of the Moon Road up the street there. In pots, big as human dignity. Once upon a time, there will be this thing called freedom. Freedom. Oh, if I could only show you the view from there. Liberation for as far as your soul can see. We'll all be loving, we will all be loving all the love we please. Once upon a time, there will be this thing called freedom. Freedom. By this point, folks will have consciously obliterated all forms of bigotry a long, long time ago. No presumption of supremacy shall ever be allowed there. Once upon a time, there will be this thing called freedom. 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 We will know this to be true because we have always known this to be true. As is the artistry of the Horn of the Moon, the handiwork of our liberation shall be painted clear across our lives in all the spectral hues of translucent transformation, transcendentally raising all ascendant affirmations. once upon a time, there will be this thing called freedom, liberation for as far as your soul can see. In pots big as human dignity, folks will be cooking up radicalizations of things that today we couldn't even think to believe. There will be jazz and beats of people dancing in the streets. Folks will be so free, folks will be so free, won't nobody remember any other way to be. Oh, if I could only show you the view from there. It's a poem called How About Now? When nobody's looking, do Black lives still matter? How about now? How about when my mother goes to see the doctor? How about when I cross the street? Do I get to use the crosswalk too? How about when the chickens come home to roost? How about when I've told you to get your hands off me? How about when nobody's looking? Do Black lives still matter then? Even if everybody's still telling the truth? How about now? It's another timely piece called Blues Jean-Michel Basquiat, and I'm wearing it's a TJ Maxx last year. It's probably the only Basquiat I'll ever own. Blues Jean-Michel Basquiat. I know why, I know why the caged bird bit the hand he was dealt and flew the fuck away. I know why the caged bird bit the hand he was dealt and flew the fuck away. I know why the caged bird said, fuck this shit, and chewed that lock to bits. I know why the caged bird does not dream of his captor's yield. Bird flying high, bird flying high, I know how you feel. You know, now that I'm 432, and in these times it's been interesting just to kind of reflect back on the series of exoduses, that's a word, from this country. Thinking of Baldwin's exodus, thinking of Marcus Garvey and his movement of suggested exodus. And considering that question now, it's just been interesting to realize how long that question has been going on. And following that, I will read a poem here called I'm Going with Harriet. If anyone wants to know, yeah, I'm going with Harriet. If I suddenly disappear, I will either be with Harriet or who knows where. I don't know how many of you are with me on this, or how you might want to do as you wish, but I would be totally remiss if I didn't say, in all seriousness, I'm not going back. Y'all can yearn and pine for status quo's return all you want, but I ain't going back. Send my regards to capitalist greed, the same irrational creed that has now left you to writhe and bleed. But I am not going back. I am not going back to that plantation that has dogged me to my knees. I am not going back to the treachery that has denied my most vital need to fabulously simply be me. I'm not going back to your complicit country, 'tis of thee. The buck stops here. Y'all can return to death as you wish. I will stake my fortunes on the livelihood of mountains far from all this. The currency of my survival is as free as the stars from which I exist. The fruition of this garden blossoms to a higher time and bliss. Y'all can wait for what drills your master's lash, but I ain't going back for none of this. One more poem here. I've also in these times, I've really been comforted by just thinking about the power of water, the cleansing power of water, tremendous, unimaginable power of water. I grew up in San Francisco and lived there pretty much my whole life until I moved here. And I grew up as a child and as an adult, spending a lot of time at the beaches. And along some of the beaches, there are boulders, humongous building-sized boulders that seem pretty permanent. And one day I went and suddenly I realized that these humongous boulders were in different places. The power of water. And I've really been drawing the connection between, I've just kind of been seeing humanity as like a tide, the ocean of humanity, and how hopefully we will move the boulders we're dealing with aside quickly. So on that note, I'm going to finish with this poem here called June Mountain Thunderstorm. Water, rolling orders, water, flashing courses, water, shuffling boulders, water, seeding forces, water, tolling shoulders, water, lightning orders, water, rolling borders into portals, into portals, into portals, water, rolling shoulders within the corners of the universe, water, casting orders into bloom, water, casting orders into bloom, water, casting orders into bloom. Thank you.
Thank you, Toussaint. That was magnificent. I was picturing Golden Gate Beach last week.
Yes, that was one of my favorites.
Okay. So, I'm so happy to be here to be reading with Bianca and Toussaint. And, I'm just trying to trace to put some of these things. So thank you all for coming. This is such a great event, and I've just been really amazed to watch PoemCity grow over the years here. And I can't think of another town where there's such a vibrant and celebratory spirit about poetry, and all those wonderful poems in the windows that just testify witness to our common humanity here in Vermont and across the universe. So I'm going just to read a few poems. So this is from a new book that's coming out in about 2 weeks. I don't have the book yet. So I just have to read from this manuscript. It's very cumbersome. I thought I'd just start with this. The cruelest month, April, right? I mean, a famous poet says that, and everybody says, oh yeah, April's the cruelest month. Well, January's not so nice either. April, there's a new quality in the air, a sweet redolence from the first flowers, and pungent odor in the soil emerging from the thaw. That smell that spring passes under your nose to wake you again, more than wake you, stir you in such a way that you recall the irony that kills, the shadow in the root, the upswing on the ward. How strangely and therefore divinely your mind suddenly turns in its thinking of your soul as a cloud that assumes a panoply of mystical forms, including a Chinese mirror in which your body suddenly appears as a vast array of creatures: ant, trout, hawk, gazelle, and so on. You laugh, and a flower blooms beside a door in a meadow that opens onto a darkness so deep no light can light it, that is the zero by which everything in the world is multiplied at dusk. Let's get the list here. So I'm going to also read a few in the spirit of this troublesome zeitgeist, for lack of a better phrase. And this was one I actually wrote quite a while ago, but it still seems very relevant. I'm going to read several, I guess, on this topic, not all of the rest, but some. Prophecy against those. They will grow asses' ears and stand like guards at the funerals of their mothers. They will forget history as if it were a bad memory they could live without. They will become victims of their own crime for losing their fear of the dark. They will confuse art with eloquent despair. They will be devoid of crazy leaps in other lives. They will become famous for their towers. They will pass eye exams year after year. They will cease from studying tragedy and find humor in violence. They will dress sharply and abuse women. They will deny their loneliness on the street and hone their wit. They will get ahead. They will have no literature. They will grow blind to the safety of the avant-garde and high absurd. They will turn into boards with infinite splinters. They will misprise and misprise. They will see no connection between themselves and a hazelnut. They will destroy the earth with luxuries. They will recoil with disdain at darken with kindness. They will take pride in their faithlessness and win at the table. They will depend on panels and laugh at Orpheus. They will sew lids to their lids and carry knives to school. They will lose the mouth to their terrible hunger. They will dream unceasingly of cocks crowing. So in 2016, I wrote a letter, that's the title of this here, to the president. And you've never read it. But, I'm going to read the letter. Thank you. It's called Letter to the President from a Citizen, August 21st, this is 2019, that was the same period. I write to you, Mr. President, from inside this cell in which you've locked the country with ice. It's alive in here with huddled masses you call your enemy, you call invaders, including me, a citizen you're holding as well in your detention center of fear and loathing of the others. Although you were different too, just yesterday, in the persons of your mother and father, whose middle name was Christ. Did you know that?
No.
His middle name is Christ. His mother's name is Monica. I hear echoes inside these walls that are invisible, but hard with history, repeating the words of martyrs that fly like birds from the past into now, into one in particular from the hole in Vladivostok. No longer can I feel the ground beneath me. Whenever there's a snatch of talk, it turns to the Kremlin mountaineer who pokes out his finger that alone goes boom. You hear? The chorus of beautiful voices is singing right here beneath the sky. Every tyrant resurrects the same. There is an epigraph for this poem. This poem was inspired by Osip Mandelstam, who was, of course, killed by Stalin. And the quoted lines in this poem are from Osip Mandelstam's poem Stalin Epigram. Mandelstam was imprisoned in the Soviet Gulag near modern-day Vladivostok, where he died of cold, starvation, and illness in 1918. So here's a poem called Checklist. I felt like I had to write at some point just for myself. Poets often write first for themselves, which is just, I guess it's pretty egocentric to do that. But then they say, well, maybe this will cross over. Maybe there's a transpersonal self here. Checklist. The bone that aches in the rain of lies, a turnip instead of cake. The fire that feeds on the breath of witnesses, even a stone that speaks. The echo of her no in the outskirts, the echo of her no in the outskirts and streets. The sword that brought, the sword he brought instead of peace. The red coal an angel places on the tongue like a treat. The sentence of his sentence. Pennies worth more than gold. Others, and then some. The tree with so many tongues that says, the truth resides inside the wind and blows for those who hear it. A kiss on the cheek that doesn't turn. The nerve that takes its stand by keeping its seat. The pauper in the park who says, of these ends it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. The bell that heals itself by ringing. The smile in the hole. The eye that sees when closed. Waking. Let's see, just a few more. Let's see. mother passed a few years ago, and I was sitting under a tree up in near Burlington, and I just heard this voice. You know, when someone passes, you hear their voice. Words are poor receipts for what time hath stole away. John Clare, the poet, said that. This side of you. I think you're still here sometimes, calling to me like the thrush at dusk. Inside the woods where I lose my way, I search for you like a ghost myself. In all the usual places, stand on the shore this side of you and speak to the river that flows and stays and flows. Everything is deaf to what I say, choosing only to speak in the single tongue of its simple language. River, sycamore, wind. I listen to the hills and valleys with the hope that even a breeze will cure my heart. Move on, it whispers in the honey locusts above with bees. Move on. A few leaves fall like empty pages. I carry your stone with a perfect ear for silence. So, one of my mentors, maybe my main mentor, when I look back on it, you know, I had many mentors. But this mentor was someone I drove up here to Goshen every almost week from Providence, Rhode Island to sit with for most of about a year, maybe more, just to listen to. And it was an invaluable experience. And she taught me, you know, about her gift, the gift of writing. Because I used to ask her, what's the gift? What's the gift? And she said, well, you know, when I write a poem and I finish it, I realize I did not write it. I said, what? You did? I saw you. I mean, I see your handwriting. No, I did not write it. I said, well, then, where did it come from? What did she say? From across the universe.
From what?
From across the universe. From across the universe. All I did was write them down wherever I was at the time. Hanging laundry, baking bread, driving to Illinois. My name was attached to them on the page, but not in my head, because the bird I listened to outside my window said, I couldn't complain about the blank in place of my name, as if I wished to hold both ends of the wire like a wire and continue to sing instead of complain. It was my plight, my thorn, my gift. The one word in three I was permitted to call it by the muse who took mercy on me as long as I didn't explain. That, of course, is a stone. And his gift has been passed down to her family and her daughters in amazing ways. Just one more here, maybe. So, you know, when you're driving and you're a writer, you go, God, how can I drive and write at the same time? You have to practice and just pray at the same time. So I wrote this, driving up from Providence to Goshen one day. In my unknowing, I was driving through the fields of heaven when I realized I was still on earth, because earth was all I'd ever known of heaven, and no other place would do for living forever. I had grown beyond belief from seeing that everything I felt had sprung from lives I already lived, so that I could feel the way I did, which was so much. I had no idea where to begin. The crawling, the slithering, the leaping, the flying, the dying. If you had been there with me in the passenger seat and asked me about the newt or flea or pachyderm, I would have told you everything I knew, which was a frightening amount. And not only that, but just how much I love them all. Those heavenly beings, the serpent, the lion, the mosquito, the hawk, the antelope, the worm. Not only beings, but stones as well. Each particular thing, so mysterious in my unknowing. I knew I was living forever. I knew the fields through which I was driving were the fields of heaven, in which I was tasting and seeing and tasting. Thank you.
Hi. Happy Poetry Month. Happy birth to this PoemCity anthology. I'm not going to read the intro I wrote fully, but one thing I wanted to read from it is a quote from Edward Hirsch, the poet, who said, poetry is the social act of a solitary maker. Poetry is this contradiction of such an individual, private, artistic practice that somehow comes out in front of everybody and deals so intensely with the contradictions and ambiguities, the unknowings, and the events of being a human being, not only in a society, but in the world. And I think it's important. Poetry is important because it aims to bring us back into right relation with one another and the world. I've been reading this poem a lot lately. I'm sorry if you've been to other readings of mine. And it's not coming out in the book till next January, so I'm kind of screwed. I'm going to be reading a lot from it. But this idea of poetry, right? I'm thinking so much about it. It's undefinable. Derrida said, to say what poetry is would be to renounce knowing. It's good to keep trying to define it and never settling on one thing, because poetry, like peace, is active and doesn't settle. Poets play the winter tarantella, making love in the midnight hours on a white iron bed like a dog skeleton, distinguishing the essential and unessential moments shared between ordinary lunatics, and screaming over a bird in an apple tree until an elegy has to be written to resuscitate the relation. Those who look toward the depleted wildlife of neighborhoods with tragic relish to see somehow ourselves disappearing about ourselves. Once in New York City, years ago, the internet technician finally arrived. His teenage apprentice stood in my living room over a transformer book, and he said it looked kind of cool, and he wanted to know what it was. Poetry, I said. What's poetry like, he asked. And the treacherous inadequacy with which one finds oneself explaining in a few loose, deficient words something with lungs and no face. The immortal freak of language you haunt and hunt, which is the original state of language you're trying to get back to from within. Poetry, whose rare geniuses come as bittersweet suicidal explosions on the tongue, randomly felt during long, tedious meals, award-winning and already forgotten. All the emoting of the unanalyzable fragments, all the surrender and detonations of precision and reckless insight in reference to hidden wisdom and Coke cans, conversations across time, and slips into truth, an obscurity of thought, altogether blissfully, a form which is itself at best strings of dreams in the waking light, overlaid like unobserved clothing, the words that sing stillness, the silence craved by perpetual auctioneers, that which is not the tale of event, but itself an event. You know what? Just take the book, I said finally, pushing it into his hands. Thanks, he said, and took it away, grinning a little. But later, with snow in my head and a thunder in my right eyelid, I was worried, as I was so dangerously then, of dark yet unspoken things that frightened me. That shiny black and white book, wafting around New York City in the back of a Time Warner cable van, waiting to be opened, waiting to torment him, thinking of it changing his life. Speaking of Roostone, this is a poem called Thoughts at the Grave. I'm not going to elucidate more on that comment. I'll let it just sit with the poem. Thoughts at the Grave. I'm considering a stone. Even alone, I feel I am in another performance. Even the near world is distant. Certain graves have no headstone, no name, no dates, no epigraph. Only a good boulder hauled over with a backhoe and marked with a twisted wind chime. And who is down there? In the softening box, your discarded limbs, the unstrung toy with ruthless hair, morphing to wild blue flocks scattered above you, but for some artfully yellowed dentures fallen back into the gritty skull, the color gone as any Grecian statues now, as a seashell far from the sea. I think a ghost follows me. It is not you. It's nothing. Nobody. I coax her here now. Here, where the end of summer light sleeps dappled on cots of ground ivy, and ferns sleep awake the border of a lain down life. Some stones are better left uncarved, I think, uneaten by tool. Even Rodin must have sensed it. How when a face emerged out of nothing in his obsessive work, that what was hidden was lost in the stone once it was carved into something. How when a face looks out, staring from a pedestal, it's stuck seeing. Rodin, whose final act was a half-finished bust of an impatient pope, how he threw down his apron in a rage at the suggestion of using photographs and limped down the pontifical steps with tears in his eyes and died soon after. All that intense staring he did at spiral snail shells, at the Gothic cathedrals of France, bombed to rubble in the war, back to mute stone, all that observing that worked its way into what seemed so like a woman's thigh, or the vein on a furrowed brow. But even wind and water carve stone with their howling gaze. I see them at the brook across the yard from here, where I walk from the grave. I see them working the stone, poured into concave nothing. And everyone knows that eventually, even a slow drop of water will create madness and change on a surface. Consciousness, which cuts as it goes, paths into new rooms, and wakes up and finds a mirror and thinks, this is my face. This is my face. And it once looked upon yours. Speaking of the power of water, here's another, I'll just read one more just for time's sake. But thank you all so much, and wow, just so happy to be in such a great room full of listeners and poets. This poem, I was teaching a retreat workshop, and we had such a beautiful week. And it was in Calais, Vermont, near here, and everyone was so sad to leave, and we'd grown so much, we'd written so many poems, we'd transformed the mind, we'd bonded these bonds for life. And I was like, I'm gonna go swim in Mirror Lake. It was such a beautiful lake, and I was swimming, and all the thunderclouds were rolling in, and it was such a beautiful moment to see all the clouds coming in and the thunder rumbling, and we all got in our cars and left after that. And then the next day, Montpelier flooded. And so, in thinking about that time again, students singing before the flood, I can hear them downstairs, where I left them after breakfast, in the discourse, in the work. The poem will come when one part of you fades and another clarifies. It will come for the universal and forgotten conversation, barely legible and famous with implicit sound. I can hear them go on, reconstructing the autobiographical persona from its routine in the room, from its terrible idea of itself, and then go quiet. They're quiet for so long, it seems an outline of a pause is almost solid. Almost, I go then. Then a guitar begins. The students from far away, now together, are singing Fleetwood Mac's Dreams. Quietly, then louder, they are harmonizing, while the sky outside unfolds in yeasty clouds that obscure and uncover the light, and soon it will wash away the roads, exposing steep precipices, the disquieted underground, the ragged roots. Soon it will rain away the roads again, and the sheep will have to be hoisted into canoes tied to stop signs, and all the books will have to be thrown out as they swell and warp, and the long, milky summer rain will keep on falling and falling like madness. Like the white lashes of a Clydesdale horse, it will drown the eyes. A wall of stones smashing downstream will pull the wild grapes out along the river banks. There was something I wanted. I was thirsty. I saw the woods. I saw one velvety slug with its narrowing head laying in a clutch of tiny dark green mushrooms, so utterly paused and alive. I grew supple and humbled just to see it. All that time, love was growing dark in my mouth and in the body of a song. I'm already gone, I thought, and singing salutes nothing with itself. Singing comes up through the floorboards and builds and overflows at my feet with its flotsam, car tires and plastic jugs, smooth limbs of trees, pale and skinned of all bark. And ever since I was young, a certain sound crept toward me, seeped like a gas, a mirage. I gathered it to me, I inhaled, I embalmed myself with it. Nothing moves but that song they sing. A mind who has lost its body must be all sound, mustn't it? Rushing over its own bones in a frenzied search. A mind that wanted what it couldn't have. I think whatever God placed matter here and cored us for its liquor to run through must sit watching to see what happens and look upon us in anxious hope to see itself. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Chard. Thank you, Toussaint. So powerful. Getting all emotional in the poetry feelings here. We've heard so many poems. Peace is an action. Poetry is an action. Protest is an action. Love is an action. Magic is an action. Singing is an action. And I think we'll hear some singing tonight. Are there any poets who signed up for the open mic who wants to take back their name, because I mentioned that will be filmed and recorded tonight? Just raise your hand and I can take off your name. We'll see how long we have time for. If we get to the end and there's still some time according to the store to go to have more poets, I think those of you who came in after the sign up was done might have a turn. But I'm gonna call out, I'll be on the side calling out names. And everybody can come up and read their one poem in PoemCity. I hope everyone gets a book tonight, and thank you Bear Pond for sponsoring again. We love that. Not only are these amazing poets in the anthology, but everyone you'll hear from tonight are in the anthology, and that's really one of the most beautiful things I love about putting this program and this book together, is that we're all poets. We can be published many times, we can be a poet laureate, or we can never have been published before and maybe picked up a pen for the first time and wrote a poem, and it's all here in the book. So thank you all for coming. We're going to start with our first open mic poet, which is Maxine Leary.
I don't usually wobble, but I've been sitting there for a long time. And I'm going to ask your indulgence, and I'm going to tell you I'm 95 and a half years old, so I'm entitled to this raspy voice. Okay? I wrote this poem for are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I wrote this poem for two friends of mine who live in Sydney, Australia, celebrating their anniversary. And that's how this came to be. It's very short, but one day I started singing around the house, and I'm going to dare. And I ask your indulgence. My throat's kind of filled up right now. So I think I'll just sing it and be done with it, okay? The first half is the poem that's actually in the anthology, and the second half is just made up as I walked around the house, okay? It's called Anniversary. Remember how it was, love, when we were 2 and 20. Remember how we danced, love, when nights were long and plenty. Remember how we sang, love, when days went on forever. Remember how it was, love and cherish it with me. Remember, remember how we danced. Remember how we sang. Remember how we loved. Oh, remember, 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 remember how it was love and cherish it with me.
What made me decide to sing it was when you used the word sing. I had decided.
All of poetry is song, right?
Yes.
We'll hear from Dottie next.
I want to thank everybody that put this together, that used the community. This time, I wanted to submit something to remind us all when we are stuck at a point of uncertainty, that if we hang together and work together, we can get past it. The title of the poem is Mr. DeJoy, Where Are You? And that's enough. It is dedicated to Ben Doyle and all those folks in Montpelier and beyond who persisted in getting their post office back. And in spite of all of that bureaucracy, the local postal carriers were just invincible, and my heart went out to them, even though whatever we got was rarely or regularly received. They were out there for us. So, Mr. DeJoy, where are you? No one sends me letters anymore. Even the P.O. master tends to ignore me. Perhaps I'm barking up the wrong door. What is the point of writing for? Most notes are sent by computer. I'm forlorn. No one sends me letters anymore. I miss our local P.O., what it stood for. It got swept down river to God knows where. Perhaps I'm barking up the wrong door. I've written to the P.O. master to implore him to return our P.O. and restore it. No one sends me letters anymore. While you may think me a complete bore, I'm still asked for time on the public forum. Perhaps I'm barking up the wrong door.
Ron Merkin.
I look in the mirror, and what do I see? A very old person who can't be me. How does time do this? What gives him the right to torture me daily with this god-awful sight? A faceless is expensive. Is it always worth the price? My insurance won't cover it, which hardly seems nice. So I spray my bathroom mirror with eau de la supreme. It erases all my wrinkles, works like a dream. A dream is the right word, 'cause wrinkles or not, the inevitable is inevitable. It happens a lot. Thank you.
And thank you, thank you, thank you. Age is a running theme, yeah? And it's right here in my poem that I put in the anthology this year here. I am just amazed. How can I be this old, right? And the gratefulness for having been given so much time. Wish I could say I had taken advantage of it, as hindsight might dictate, but not too bad, not too bad. This poem, by the way, it's in my anthology that just came out this fall that I'm feeling very proud of, Sky Furniture. And this one is in there, and it's called Born. And it has an epigraph, and that is an epigraph by Rumi, which is, being human is a guest house. What sort of thing is a life? This thing sourced at the whim or plea of two other lives soon gone, trundled along pathways undesigned, tricked into purpose. What sort of scaffold can a life climb to look back, to look forward, to change course, to defy the promises of importance? What chance is there to wink and turn about? This life will not be gift-wrapped, not leached of color, not offered finally as a cup of dust. This life will be a wild chant, sung by a psalm singer in the Lion House. This life will wield a pen, this life will wield a pen, racing to keep up with a mercurial mind. The rest may be silence.
Janet Wanton.
A very brief preamble. 12 years ago, Marjorie Ryerson took a look at what do we call it? PoemCity. And she created PoemTown, which is in Randolph. And since then, I've been one of the major organizers of PoemTown. And next Thursday, we have Bianca coming to us to read. And so come and read all of our poems. We don't have anywhere near as many as you do, but we have some really nice books. You never know what you're going to find when you're shopping at the grocery store. My poem was called Parking Lot Philosophy. Oh my! What if I told you what I saw on the truck's back window at the shopping mall today? Words that first made me just burst out and cackle, mirthfully holding my sides, then actually staring, never having seen such a phrase, such an admission before. Then towering over me, my thoughts, my fears, my anxieties of our time. Way back from the Greek tragedian Aeschylus, yes, I say tragedian, something should be harbored in all of our hearts and minds. He wrote of the importance to tame savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. What, you ask, was on the back of that parked truck? Please forgive me. I was raised by wolves.
Rick Agran.
It's hard to hear the names.
Rick Agran.
Thank you.
This poem started out as a certainty, and as I did 20 drafts of it over about 10 years, it became less and less certain. A darn shame's antithesis meets the infinite, etc. The black candle longing for an Ohio blue tip to look its way. A single red M&M bulging the corner of your envelope. A crayon Valentine confessional complete with X's and O's. Silvered circle of light in a darkened theater, tattooed on your left palm with invisible ink. Fortuitous as the umbrella's velvet shadow. Astronomical certitude if born in the year of the rat, which I am. The walking onion loping into imagination's fertile soil, a single almond in a pound cake, meaning your wish is granted. The single bay leaf in the sauce foretelling you will do the dishes. Drowning the duck's wishbone you snap with both hands. Pregnant as a small town pause. Intuitive as a swoon, your lullaby, an angel whisper singing the nearness of you. In your hand, a fresh picked daisy, one petal left, and you've just said, she loves me not. It's written on the moon in uncertain calligraphy. Looky here, look up.
Ann Bauer.
Kind of daunting getting up here. Reaching. Searching for that perfect, deep flavored apple. Reaching through orchards' myriad trees. Disappointed at flowers mild, overly ripe, sour. This one mushy, that one hard as a bocce ball. Where is my ideal apple? Aroma full and sweet, with juices flowing, flesh yielding yet crisp, deep lingering taste, as complex as my hands with their multiple bones. I pretend these other fruits ideal, blueberry, strawberry, raspberry, peach, and each has its savor, bright and real, as notes of a summer song. But I long for my apple of depth, with its blush of red, its solid heft.
Jared Avalis.
So this is called To Be Empty. I sit with my second son, waiting for my wife to return, depleted after the days of delivery. The little crow in front of me peeks a storm cloud eye at the blur of my tired joy and curls himself back into the nest of his car seat. Perched atop a wheelchair at the end of our hospital bench rests an eagle, no more than 10, pale crown smoother than any razor could cut, doodling hearts while they wait for some magic tonics, meant to take the pain or kill the cancer, flying free in their veins. Newborn joy turns to ash and dust as I craft complex blasphemies for any creator that could gift this wonder of life to me, and also bless any child with such an unholy labor. Yet to be empty of love isn't full of hate, so I swallow into the moat of my tear-choked throat, all my reflexive prayers and these new minted curses, as I try to forget his sacred name in those long ingrained hymns and holy verses.
Lee Harder.
I'm not going to tell you a lot about it, I'm just going to read it. How to greet the evening star. If it is January, stand in the door frame, door wide open to the cold. Look toward the horizon until blush fully fades, blue deepens, and darkness spreads inky. If it is January, return to the kitchen. Mince garlic, chop shallots, sauté in butter and olive oil until the smell is like home, all winter warm and amber. Return to the door, now clothed well. Enter the clouds of your own breath, finding Venus just there by the moon. Acknowledge the beginning of night. See the first stars as they glow. If it is January, remember first times, the way joy first found you. Nod in assent and return to the kitchen to finish making dinner.
Kim Bent.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Bear Pond. Thank you, Kellogg Hubbard. One of the special events of this special month is going to be the republication by Rootstock of the collected Judavine poems. And so I submitted a poem to PoemCity to help draw attention to that fact. This is called The Grounds of Bullen, homage to David Budbill. Grounds of Bullen is the first part of what one of the things that the French Canadian pulp cutter Antoine says to the narrator David at some point. The full phrase is more like a grounds of Bullen trying to plant the seed. And so that's the vein of this. I wrote this as a present to the opening night cast, the production we did in 2017. Till the soil, plant your seeds, water well, keep out the weeds. Pick when ripe, eat your fill, preserve the rest, then just be still. Stay inside, mind the fire, wait for spring, nurse your desire.
Thank you, Kim. I'm going to put a plug for that event. Thanks for reminding us. So May 15th will be the Judavine book launch. Judavine is a collection of poems and a play and prose poems by the late David Budbill. We reprinted it with Rootstock Publishing, and there'll be a reading with Abby Page, one of the actresses who starred in the show, on May 15th at Lost Station Theater. Thank you. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. Thank you everybody for reading. This is great. We're going to keep going. Next we have Jamie Keogh.
Okay, I'm nervous. I'm just going to read it. Okay. Melancholy farewell. Dance with me, sweet innocence. Hold your defeated head high. Radiate your energy with beaming naive eyes. Dance with me, lost lovers. Gaze into my darkened soul, where blurry reflections are fancy fairy tales, and lurking shadows are perfect widow's veils. Twirl me towards a false reality, where days go by with no responsibility. Dip me into murky waters deep, entangled in my sorrow, with seeping muddy veins I weep, of days unable to borrow.
A.P. Krameric.
The floor rattles a day out. Whistle incoming. The room comes quick. The dream dusting leftover wings and good glass bottles in the tree leaning over the river. The home is illuminated in the glow, gone, left in the woods, undone in flame always and again. The dictionary open in place of a Bible. Crows and foxes coming by to inquire, to witness a word returned. The beaten trails and imperfection from the structure. A collapse foretold where cows once grazed. Where also a family grafted, built, and died. Never mind the silo at night. They were lost rooms of other people's lives. 2 a.m. breakfast in the corner booth at the corner diner of Portland. Friend with a borrowed name catches the neon in her glass to keep herself interested. Soothing heat and a plate of grease. The busser beat down the windows to break up the fight. All this town is good for. Was it bridges or shimmer? I tell her, it's the moss I can't get enough. To the friend simply wanting to recollect here, I will give it away. To be fulfilled in a vast ruinous moment, chlorine blue walls, deep south highway fluorescence, tiled matrix. Enough for escape. As a sign of gentleness, you carried me to the void, the procession, my personal omnipotent thundering. Invisible but for the sentinel streetlights puncturing the tongue, I sank behind in the gums, expecting shards and frightened teeth to leave me with a path, started suffering. To be so complete and forget the morning has its own terrors.
Ward.
Thanks, everybody. So much juiciness. I just feel like I'm sucking it all in. You can see my poem in the book garden. Wait. That's why these are around my neck. Empathy's crown. Where do we authorize the sheep for their new brains? They can skip and climb this murmurous U.S. terrain, but don't understand the risks. Why can't they read the fine print at the bottom of these cliffs? See the tattered flag, the empty husks of once held trusts. And where can we find a border collie to herd them east and down to the green valley below, where empathy holds her crown?
Bernie Lambeck.
This is quite a gathering. Wonderful, thank you, Samantha, my friend. This is a poem I wrote a few years ago for my wife on her 70th birthday. It's called An Intent to Commit, and it's a slightly abridged version. I will always walk with you. I'll feel with you. I'll talk with you, eat a meal with you. I'll cook with you, sit with you, read a book with you, keep fit with you, take a trip with you, might nap with you, hum a tune with you, but not rap with you. Keep the fire with you, do a sketch of you, never tire of you, maybe kvetch with you. I'll sow with you and reap with you, lie down in bed and sleep with you. Wake up with you, tete-a-tete with you, remember with you, forget with you, and love you, and love you.
Gaia Freed.
With no feet on the ground. I maneuver my 12-foot ladder between the crumbling wooden structures that used to display plants and the trunks and branches of the 40-year-old kiwi vines. Squeezing up trees, steps, and the coils of this jack in the beanstalk, I shut my eyes and go by feel. If I look, I'll see it's not possible. On top of the ladder, faint from heat and humidity, glasses fogged, sweating through my t-shirt, I let go of my father's equipment and entangle myself into the vine. My head is bent back, reaching for kiwis so long, I forget reality, forget where I am, forget to hold on. I can't listen to audiobooks. 1 second musing about the Russian Revolution and I'll let go. A sound from behind could knock me off, the thud of an apple. I am wondering all day, if I fall, will the vine bend and give and stretch to save me, or will it snap? I picked my weight in kiwis this summer. The magic fell to earth.
Julia Barstow.
Barstow, I'm sorry.
This is a poem that also comes from Portland and wildfires. Settler, tending a weak heat beside the hearth, let it dissipate. The dry scorch builds outside. Goats consume brush. Flame consumes what they leave untouched. Sky knit so close, thick and heavy, that sun will never leave. Red, red orb, still behind eyelids. Ash does not leave lungs untouched. Bake this loaf in the embers, whole world the hearth. Jen Brown.
I wrote this about the time that I was realizing that my mother has dementia. So it's anyhow. It's called Anyhow. When I'm not looking, snow begins or ends. When I'm not looking, the baking sheets slide in the cabinet and the dog barks at them. Someone tucks flyers under windshield wipers. Secret Santa of the great deal no one wants. Stickers bloom on signs and poles. I love you, someone crayons on a large blue mailbox. While I'm dozing, dogs are peeing in snow, marking poles, linking into a network. My parents, miles away, pack their bags for their next overseas trip, maybe their last. From down here, I can't see the people born in sleek silver lozenges overhead. Their singular faces, seeds in the core of pods designed to sow them far afield. From most of the seats in an airplane, the passengers also aren't looking down at the crazy quilt earth. Or they want to, anyhow, but can't quite see it.
Mary Collins.
Thank you for the generosity of your time and attention. It's great to be in your company. This is called The One About Johnny Spaniel, and it's dedicated to Hayden Carruth. I read your poem this morning, The One About Johnny Spaniel. It reminded me of my grandfather. Your voice, similar. I would sit at his feet listening to him tell stories in that thick, cadenced Vermont drawl, the one that sounded like syrup on pancakes, the one none of us could ever have too much of. It was a voice as sticky as jam, a story metered out like butter on bread, a song sweeter than a prayer. Like your poems, his voice was plum. I can hear you say it, plum. The way few things are these days, the way I feel reading your words, or better still, hearing you read them yourself. How you captured us straight and true, how you truly loved who we are, how we came to be just this way, rough, sturdy, squared off, with an honest lack of pretense, that shows up in the way we say binoculars, or how we know the seasons by scent and how to find our way home just by scanning the lay of the land, finding the one familiar tree, a guidepost deserving of our gratitude, not to be cut for firewood. Like old growth forests, we're still here, some of us, anyways. I see glimpses in the woman who cuts my hair and talks about hunting. We don't get lost in the woods, she says, as she snips my bangs. That's how you know a local from a flatlander. I miss that about this place. I miss the voices that speak true, the ones that know the guideposts never get lost, not at the IGA, not in the deep woods of Sterling Valley, not in a room full of strangers who insist that we mingle. Since when did Vermonters ever mingle? I miss that you're not here among us to talk about these things, to swap stories of farmers and ne'er-do-wells like us, of beauticians who hunt and know their way around the woods as easily as they do a cowlick. There are just a few of us left, holding on to what you once taught in your poems. So I'm grateful you listened as closely as you did, knew how to find your way home, wrote it all down, made words plumb. And I think that I would still recognize your voice if I were to hear it again, somewhere among all the migrations, through poverty, death, climate change, and all that goddamn political wrangling. You would be standing here among us, a take-no-prisoners backwoods archangel, reminding us of who we once were and who we might still become. Thank you.
Dentico.
Hi, I'm Nick. I normally publish poetry and sound art as ND Dentico. This is my poem. I come armed with weeds against those that fear the invasion of life. I come armed with weeds because folks are hungry while there is food all around. I come draped in flames of serrated leaves, not to attack, not for offense, but for the dangerous hope that lurks deep inside us all, that there might be a path forward through these stinking walls of control and concrete that keep these weeds from creeping up through. That the concrete won't keep these flames from rising out of the footprints of the colonizers who must always be watching their backs. Faith that these leaves will return again each spring to feed the folk. I come armed with weeds because I love you, even though you are different and maybe you don't have the right number of petals, or your stems aren't smooth enough, or your leaves aren't alternate, or your stamens are in different places, or you grow in the shade. I come armed with weeds. Let's eat. Before
I call out our final poet that's on my list, I noticed that Monica arrived, and I mentioned your artwork on the cover. Did you want to read your eclipse poem that's in the book? All right, let's welcome Monica Di Giovanni.
So this is a little bit of a different version than what's in the book. And I just want to mention that eclipses are pause in darkness, but they don't stick around forever. So in this moment of constitutional eclipse, we'll get through it. Eclipse, September 18th, 2024. Walking the neighborhood under a bright full moon eclipse, my footsteps echo a boundless starry night. Canopy of trees, pause of darkness, overburdened by lamplight, detail lost in contrast. Startled by hooves topping pavement, in the pause we meet eye to eye. Reticent young deer looks back, then retreats, consumed by the forest. Where is the rest of the herd? Alone with the tree, branches bowed downward, just ripe apples ready for snacking. One drops to the grass by my feet with a surprisingly audible thud. Hey you. It bounces to the sidewalk, then wobbles downhill into the gutter.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to hear our final poet for open mic, Joy.
It is daunting up here.
It's a big crowd.
Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't say be sure to go all over Vermont. All the communities are doing different month-long celebrations. Not all of them, of course, but Hardwick is debuting Verse Village. Randolph has Poem Town. St. John's Ferry has something. I'm not aware of all of them. I should
Rutland.
Rutland. What is theirs called?
Do you remember what it's called?
I think it's a Poem Town.
It might be Poem Walk, actually.
Well, check it out, because there's so much poetry happening in Vermont right now. And there's a lot of Poetry Society members in here. So come chat with us if you're interested in joining that. And I'll just read my poem now. What I left behind. My phone, my favorite shirt, my glasses, my last $10, my body, my new haircut on your bathroom floor, my hands and knees on the kitchen floor, my hip print on the mattress, my blanket nest, all those things I thought I wanted. Wet ashtray smell, fear of bedhead, people who didn't know how to love me, half a sandwich, a full pack of smokes, 27 broken hair clips and a scrunchie, my pants, the me who was ashamed, the me who didn't know me, 6 pens, 1 unsharpened pencil with no eraser, a trail of cough drop wrappers, 3 different kinds, a confusing mess, a prayer full of noisy tears at the river, my necrotic heart in the Colorado mountains, my perfect latte that fell off the roof of my car, my keys, everything that was in the way.
And thank you, Bear Pond. This was just a wonderful time of poetry. I urge you all to go out and make your own open mics. I know there are many poets here who still want to read, so go and make an event. Find an event at Kellogg Hubbard Library. You can go to kellogghubbard.org. You can stop at Kellogg Hubbard Library and pick up a printed program and go to many of the events and read more poetry and write more poetry. Thank you.
Thank you.